This is an excerpt of one of Ed Brubaker's most prized possessions. An excerpt from one of the books with screenplays he inherited from his uncle. His uncle, John Paxton, was a screenwriter in the 40s and 50s and was a part of Hollywood's so-called Golden Age. But according to the stories his uncle and aunt told him, it was a dark age as well, a very noir time, as Brubaker writes in the foreword. It was the time of the so-called Red Scare, where actors, directors, screenwriters, and other members of the movie industry were pursued for their political opinions. Colleagues, associates, friends were pushed to denounce each other. So, despite of the shiny, glamorous surface, it was in many ways a time of mistrust and despair. The coolness of chain-smoking alcoholics seemed rather to be a strategy to survive than one of style or glorious self-destruction. Brubaker's characters tumble from one alcoholic daze into the next hangover, but they never slip off to be mere clichés, even if the premise seems well known. A guy wakes up after a booze-clouded night in a room with a dead lady. No, on the opposite, they are very believable characters, well fleshed out, complex personalities with different agendas. Nearly all characters are damaged in many ways. They're flawed. But, or because of that, relatable. Brubaker almost totally passes on the cheeky tone of false cool that usually dominates crime noir pulp stories. Or if he does here and there, it feels more like a quote, like a joke to make the reality more bearable. Anyhow, Brubaker's story pulls us through 12 chapters of dense atmosphere and whodunit within a well-researched setting, and a lot of Easter eggs for history buffs and guest appearances of famous characters of that era, for instance Dashiell Hammett, and many, many others you will see sometimes just in the background. You won't be able to put this book down before you finished it, believe me, but this is no surprise, I guess. Brubaker and Phillips can't do any less than extraordinary books. Although this book is, even for their high standards, absolutely brilliant. I mean, it's criminal brilliant. In my opinion, that's part-wise because Brubaker could write a story very close to his own interests. The Hollywood of that era seems to be one of his bigger obsessions. Plus, it's a book about creating a story, about the process of writing, of storytelling, which often seems to be a very fruitful topic for writers who could go for a bit of an autobiographic angle. Think of Neil Gaiman's Sandman, for an example. But of course, Brubaker's co-creators are on fire as well. Sean Phillips' art is just stunning. The confident and consistent way he portrays a zillion of characters in an always easy, discernible way is simply admirable. Of course, he needs a lot of photo references for his drawings, which is documented in a very interesting part of the bonus section, as so many artists do, for the better or the worse. But even compared to the best of them, like Michael Lark or Alex Maleev, Phillips' art seems always a bit more fluid, a bit more independent or autonomous. So these drawings are just damn good drawings who make easily forget any crutches Phillips may have needed to create them. By the way, this comic is the first one he created totally digital. For the tech freaks among you, read Phillips' annotations in the aforementioned bonus section. And talking about digital magic, Elizabeth Dismang Brightweiser. What she has done with this comic is spectacular. At some early point in the story, she started to go berserk with the colors, pushing the borders of how to color a crime noir comic to the extreme. There are color combinations you've never seen in your life before, or just on one Magritte painting, or in your refrigerator when he was out of power for weeks. But it all works. Okay, there are some effects here or there that are a bit too intense and loud, but overall this is one of the best colorings I've ever seen. And hey, it's digital. It's amazing. If you look at details like cigarette smoke and of course faces in different phases of shadow, different light situations, sceneries, atmosphere reflections. Heck, this book should serve as a tutorial for emerging colorists all over the world. Okay, I'm a bit taken away. I hope you got the message. This book is a pretty good book. Even though for a deluxe edition I would expect that image, but I always find a hair in the soup sometimes. But I would expect that image could go all the way and deliver a decent binding. This binding is crap. But since we don't have images that go over 2 pages, it's not that big of a deal. So, thanks for listening and watching. Goodbye.